Welcome to The Circle of Trust, honest insights and proven strategies for predictable law firm growth.
Hello and welcome to The Circle of Trust, honest insights and proven strategies for predictable law firm growth. The podcast where ambitious law firms learn how to grow with confidence, clarity, and consistency. I am Kevin Rosenquist, and I am here with Keith Dyer, law firm CMO and founder of LEXGRO. Keith helps practices across the country move beyond referrals and guesswork to build real sustainable systems for growth. On this show, we get honest about what works, what doesn't, and what your firm needs to do next. No fluff, no hype, just proven strategies and straight talk that help you scale without losing your mind or your values. So let's introduce Keith. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. I want to talk a little bit about you and who you are and the mission for this podcast and where you come from. So could you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into legal marketing?
Yeah, about 23 years ago, I decided to leave the industry that I was in, which was building towers. And
building towers?
Yeah, I used to build towers. I didn't physically build them. I was in the management of the construction, the real estate acquisition, and the construction of the towers. This is during the cellular period. I'm showing my age a little bit, but this is when all the towers were just being built and we didn't have the networks that we have now. So I got into that, doing that, and I loved it. I was traveling all over the country. I lived in multiple cities when I was younger, and that was great. But over time, it became very corporate, and what was a lot of different companies became three main companies, Verizon, AT&T. I just got tired of being in the corporate world. I worked for a corporation that built towers that also became conglomerated into three companies: American Tower, SBA, and Crown Castle. And they're great companies, but I ended up in a cube, making very good money, managing a bunch of other people that were in cubes. And I just said to myself, this is not what I wanted to do. At the same time, my mom was aging, and her career was mostly in radio, television, and billboards. She sold those different products. And growing up, I was always around that kind of marketing thing, her career and what that meant. So we decided, because she was getting older and kind of being ushered out as a salesperson due to her age, that she wanted to start her own marketing agency. And she asked me if I would help her. And at first I said no. Then I didn't know about working with my mom.
I get it. I couldn't work with mine. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, and it did prove to be challenging at times, but ultimately, we started an ad agency together, and this was a long time ago. Now, this was before really the internet revolution. We all had websites, and everybody was talking about, oh, you need a website, and it's just funny to see where we are now, how that's changed. Anyway, I got into that with her. I started working in different corporate boards and getting involved in my community in Greensboro, North Carolina. Got involved in a PGA tournament there where I helped run the tournament. And I started meeting lawyers. And I also knew some that I went to college with that were close friends of mine. To make a long story short, these guys and a couple of gals even would come to me and ask me for marketing advice, because obviously the field of law firm marketing was starting to really grow, because it was just about the same time or a little bit before that they even let lawyers market at all. It was like almost illegal to do it, certainly unethical. And that changed, the laws changed, and that's when you started seeing personal injury law firms really grow, and other types of law firms, estate planning, etc. And so they would come to me and ask me for advice, because they're like, we know you personally as a friend, so we know you're going to give us good, objective advice, as opposed to, I don't trust these people, I don't trust what they're saying. So for a while, I did some work with them, but it was project-based. I gave them, advice on things, but I still was running my general ad agency. I had a tobacco company. I had a university, car dealerships. We marketed everything, because everything was marketed in sort of the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You get what I'm saying? So
Yep.
Then with the internet advancing to where we are now, you were able to really dial into how people select a certain product or service specifically, the funnel, how you get people into that type of funnel. And it's different for every industry. So how you how you select a personal injury firm is way different than how you buy a car, right? There are similarities, but what it really forced all of us in the agency world to do was to develop a niche, figure out a niche. Because I had worked with these folks, multiple of them, I was like, okay, it seems like I have more of these and I've been very successful with this. So I chose this as my niche. That coincided with around 2020 with the pandemic. I moved back to my hometown, which is Wilmington, Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. I had a very, very close friend that I went to college with that was building a personal injury law firm here. And he asked me if I would help him. And I told him about what I wanted to do and become a fractional CMO for law firms and kind of build an agency model around that that's educational and more representing the law firm's interests. And he liked that. So we went about scaling his firm from $3 million a year to $5 million a year. We're at $10 million a year. And we also went out and found all these different coaches and different masterminds we were part of. And I really was able to build a product or a service that I think is very much aligned with the law firm owner's interests, as opposed to being an agency that comes in and does a specific thing. I step back and help them build an actual strategy to get where they want to go.
Well, that's really interesting. And the product is, company's LEXGRO to help us figure out exactly like what it is that you do and how you help. Who is the ideal client for LEXGRO, and what do you do to help them with their marketing effort?
So it can be a law firm that's starting and trying to get to six figures, one that's at six figures trying to get to seven figures, or firms that are seven figures trying to get to eight figures. And we have different service offerings for each of those different levels, right? So when you're trying to get to 0 to 6 figures, the strategy is different. And we have programs that we work with law firms where we coach and help them implement along each one of those steps. There's different levels and different stages of the firm growth. And because we've seen firms grow from 0 to 6 and 6 to 7 and 7 to 8, we know how to structure the coaching and or services in a way that allows the firms to actually implement, and we provide the resources and the training for them to implement the necessary marketing campaigns and strategies to reach those various levels.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. So what is the biggest mistake that you see law firms make when they're trying to grow that you're then able to, help them to get on the right path?
Trusting the wrong people. Ignoring the fact that they may not know what the person that they've hired is, the person may not know what they're doing. They're like, Susie's got marketing covered. I'm going to go back to being a lawyer because that's what I know how to do.
Sure.
And Susie is not a person that's not trained well, or that she's not ignorant necessarily. It's just that she has never done it, or he has never done it. So they don't know what to do next. So they're kind of what we call wagging, wild ass guessing. And so when you wild ass guess, you don't have any predictability. You don't have a structure. If you want predictable results, you have to be predictable in what you're doing. You have to have structure and an idea of, okay, at this level, how much should I be spending on this type of marketing? And how long should I be spending it that way before I change it to another, a different strategy? And so it's all built around branding and digital direct response and things of those nature. So the biggest mistake I think people make is trusting the wrong folks and not having a very good strategy or structure. They don't know their cost per acquisition, for instance, or they don't really pay attention to the fact that ultimately branding still matters so much, because you want to eventually become the firm that everybody thinks of when they need you without ever going to Google. You just say, hey, what? I got in a car wreck. I remember XYZ firm. How they remember you, they won't even recall how they remember you. It'll just have been built into them through the brand. And there's so many ways to brand today. It used to be, you had TV, television, radio, website. Now you share the land. Those things share the landscape with multiple other ways that you can do this. It's just having the formula put together to make it work for you.
Yeah, I worked in marketing and branding for a long time, and one of the things that I saw was people having getting cheaper with what they were doing. Like, oh well, I'll just go to this website and someone will create me some random logo. It's fine. Or they piece together like clip art, or they do all that. Like they don't put time into their brand identity, into who they want people to see them as. Do you find that that's a big problem in with law firms?
Yeah, they ignore it. They don't really understand it. Here's the key, though, and you know this if you've been in this industry. The companies that become very successful are the ones that do understand it.
Mm-hmm.
They do see the value in it. And they see that. Here's another thing that goes on that drives me crazy is law firms they spit back this, what ROI am I getting? What ROI am I getting? And I'm like, sometimes ROI is delayed. ROI can come after months and years of investments,
Right.
right? And so you need to stop myopically focusing on how much ROI. It seems like you're being a really smart business person when you do that, but what you're really doing is being a bad business person because you're too myopically focused on picking up pennies when dollars are flying over your head. And you've got to build a brand for anybody to ever know who you are or think of you before they ever go searching, because then you have to be, it's an over reliance on the digital and the search. I realize it's important, it's vital, but you have to have all of this stuff working together.
Mm-hmm.
What I see, and you know this concept too, what I see is that the sum of the parts, are not equal to the whole. The whole of marketing is what creates real momentum and progress. And that's what gives you eventually predictable revenue and the ability to know if I put $5 in, I'm going to get $25 out, right?
Yeah. And that's what you mean by when you talk about predictable growth.
You have to have process. You have to have an overall strategy with the right processes and procedures in place, the right branding. We call it a conversion chain. You have to convert all the way through this process. You have to have ads that convert. Those ads that convert have to then be converted by the intake team to become a client. Then you have to convert the client all along your process to make sure that you're giving them a great product. And then when they leave, they become little marketers for you and they give you referrals. The more of this you do, the more referrals you get. The more referrals you get, the lower your cost per acquisition is, because referrals have been generated because of your good work. And they're not free, but they're not a direct cost, right? You don't know the cost necessarily. So in other words, you get more referrals by putting out more marketing and you're doing a really good job. And so it's very important for law firm owners to understand this process. They know it, but they kind of don't see it in that broad of a perspective. So the key is to do really great marketing, do a really great job for the client. The key is also to make sure they convert at sales. You get them to become a client, then do a great job for them in executing their case, so they go out and they become little marketers for you. And that will give you predictable revenue, but it's not an overnight event.
Right.
It's not it's not a podcast that you do. It's a process that takes investment and time, and it takes funding, and you have to know how much you need to borrow, or how much you can get from your own cash flow. You have to evaluate all these things to really understand. So even though we're marketers at heart, we take marketing as the CMO, and I consider myself working with the other C-suite level folks and creating a plan with them, not independent of them, that, oh, marketing's happening over here. We got that covered. No,
Mhm.
it's part of an entire business model that you have to step above as the CEO of your law firm and embrace.
Yeah, and you hit on the head with the ROI thing. I mean, it's that is something, and I get it. Like you said, it makes sense, but yeah, you have to look at it. It's not immediate results. Even podcasts, UGC ads, internet ads, social media, all that stuff. It takes time to build that, and yeah, people tend to get frustrated with not seeing an ROI fast enough, and it's really hard to get through to some people, especially, dare I say, older people, maybe old school people that don't understand how things work.
No, they think they're going to the flea market and they want to buy 5 things.
Mm-hmm.
They know those 5 things are going to be at the flea market. So they take their $200 and they go to the flea market and they bring home the things that they want. And they're like, okay, this was a successful transaction. This is subconsciously what's happening. But in marketing, they're like, oh man, I mean, even I suffer from this. I'm not immune to this because we all have limited resources, most of us, right?
Right.
You're like,
Right.
why am I spending $500 a month on this for 18 months and gotten nothing from it?
Nothing from it. Sure.
But they also, the other thing is that there's a lot of, so I believe in attribution. Like you should see what's coming the best you can from places, but a lot of attribution is not clear to us. I can go out here and buy 25 billboards in this market, and there's not going to be one person that says, "Hey, I chose your firm because I saw your billboard." There's not going to be anybody that does that because it's not about that. It's about how many times you're impressing on them that you do what you do over and over and over and over and over again, so that they realize that it's all this stuff happens often subconsciously, that you are the firm. I remember that firm, but they don't remember why. They don't know why they remember it.
Yeah.
It's because they've seen hundreds of TV commercials and they've seen 25 billboards.
Right.
I'm not saying TV and billboards are the way to go. I'm just saying that it all depends upon the firm and practice area, where they are in their growth, et cetera. But ultimately, you can't get caught up in the attribution and the ROI of certain things. You need to understand what's going on and get as much data as you can, because it only helps you figure out the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't get caught up in making too many decisions based upon direct attribution and, like, as you were mentioning, the myopic ROI thing. It's not as good a business as people think it is.
Yeah, it's sort of like your example is sort of like ads at a hockey rink, right? If you watch a hockey game on TV, you just see logos. It's not like you see what people do. It's not like you say like, oh, here's this company and here's all the stuff that they do underneath it. You can't see that. All you see is the logo, and it's just driving that home again and again. Every time you see it, you're like, you remember it. Then you see a commercial for it, and then you put the 2 and 2 together, and then it's a touch, right? It's just another touch.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, what is that show called? The Price is Right. Remember that show? And you have to spin the wheel at the end, and it takes a lot to get it going at first. But once it gets going, you just got to tap it, and it keeps going.
Yep, the momentum, yeah.
That's marketing. That's building a business.
Yeah.
The longer you're at it, the more you do it, the more authority you have, the more your brand sticks, the more people know you. And then when you get generations into it, they know, like, oh, my dad used to drink Coca-Cola. I love Coke. And his grandpa did too, right? So that's just, that kind of stuff, you just can't, you can only create it over a long period of time.
Right. Overall, what do you hope people will get out of the podcast that we're doing here?
I call it the circle of trust because I want them to come get trusted advice. I see law firms trusting, and nothing against ad agencies. They're needed, and I work with them all the time. But you can't leave the strategy of the growth of your firm in the hands and the direction of an ad agency. That's a poor way to go about this. So what I'm saying is, I built LEXGRO, and I started this podcast because I want people to come somewhere where they feel like they can get objective advice that's not based upon the interest of the vendor, but based upon the interest of the law firm. That's
okay.
In a nutshell. That's why I call the podcast The Circle of Trust, because I just don't see that being done out here very much. And I feel bad for law firm owners. People give lawyers a hard time, but they're absolutely essential to our lives. If you've been injured in a terrible accident, you need someone as your advocate, because the insurance companies are not on your side.
They certainly are not. Mm-hmm.
Need these people. And so my goal is to help them help other people. And I want them to come somewhere they can trust. And it's not a money grab. It's a true service that is built with the law firm owner's interest at heart.
I love that. I think that's really great. Well, thank you for giving us an intro into who you are and what you guys do, what LEXGRO does. Thanks for tuning in to the Circle of Trust. If this episode gave you some clarity, sparked an idea, make sure that you're following the show so you never miss a new drop. And if you're ready to build a predictable pipeline and scale your firm the smart way, head over to lexgro.com or connect with Keith on LinkedIn and share what you've been working on. Until next time, we really appreciate you being here. And Keith, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.